What's up, my family? Listen, first-time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Slap.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah.
What the f*** are you talking about?
All right, let's roll. Let's roll, baby. Rob Ellis Show A2D Radio. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing great out there. Always fun to be hanging out with you. And man, oh man, hanging out with you on a Tuesday after the Eagles beat the Cowboys. I don't care how they did it. I don't care how it went down. It is that much more sweet. I fought the good fight the whole week leading up to the Eagles-Cowboys games. Now, we talked about this. Was it the same juice level early in the week? Probably not. Probably not. I think it picked up by about Thursday or Friday. But I think for me, more than anything else, I try to get the message across to people that this is still the rivalry. I know that 49ers fans are a bunch of whining weasels. I get it. Believe me. You want the Chiefs. They knocked you off in the Super Bowl. It's Andy Reid. You want to get revenge. I get it. I get it. All valid. And they should be all rivals. But there's nothing that brings more satisfaction, at least during a regular season, than knocking off the Dallas Cowboys, without question. And all that matters is that you got it. What's up, everybody? I see Brian. Yes, wasn't pretty, but all wins count the same. I appreciate that sentiment. And I hope you're doing well as well, Brian. Tampa Eagle. What's up? Thanks for checking in from Tampa. That's the beauty of what we do, man. You can check in from all over, not only the country, but the world. Yes, David, breaking news. The Rams did sign Carson Wentz. That is correct. Here's the ironic part about that. It was really the place that was the beginning of the end, right? I mean, think about it. They're in LA. Great game, by the way, if you remember back in 2017. Incredible regular season game. Back and forth, boom, boom, boom. Carson Wentz dives into the end zone, gets his knee basically chopped. We didn't know at the time. He actually stayed in there, which was incredible, to end up throwing that touchdown pass and the 2-point conversion attempt and all that kind of stuff. And then he came out and it was torn and you thought the season was over. It wasn't over. We all know that magical ride that we went on when they won it in 2017. But really, from that moment on, I don't think he was the same physically, and I don't think he was the same psychologically, because he went through the trauma of a really bad knee injury, and he went through, the mental gymnastics of having to watch your backup quarterback win a Super Bowl and have a trophy put up, or have a statue put up for them out front of Lincoln Financial Field. And for whichever one of them it was, or the combination of both, he was never the same. But I brought this up numerous times. I can't believe with the amount of really bad backups there are in the NFL. I couldn't believe that Carson couldn't even get a sniff as a backup somewhere. And finally it has happened. So look, if he's smart, he will keep his head down, do whatever it takes to be a good teammate, because that's the biggest knock on him is he's not a good teammate. He's a tough guy to coach now. If he keeps his head down and he just listens to Sean McVay, and he can maybe resuscitate a career. Now, I don't know that he's ever a starter again. In fact, I don't think he's going to be a starter again. But if you want to stick around and play in the NFL for the next 3-4 years, this is a good opportunity for him. Other guys have gone there and kind of helped themselves. Baker Mayfield did it last year. So we've seen it. We'll see. We'll see. Carson hasn't exactly helped himself the last couple of years. So it is interesting and ironic that he gets a shot with the Rams, the place where it really started to unravel for him. That's for sure. But back to the Eagles here. It was that Dallas game was very symbolic of what a lot of this year has been, if you think about it. Not necessarily pretty, not necessarily their A game, but somehow, some way figuring out a way to win with a lot of clutch plays along the way. Not only, I think when we discuss clutch, we think offense, but I think defense in this game was really where the clutch plays occurred. Think about it. Blankenship's tackle on Schoonmaker. Huge play. Brandon Graham essentially angling and forcing Dak Prescott to step out on the 2-point conversion. Huge play, which changed everything after that, what the Cowboys were attempting to do. And then the sacks, Brandon Graham sacks, Josh Sweat sack, Carter sack, all those kind of things really came up big for them in the toughest of moments, and the Eagles offensively couldn't do anything with 14 yards on the ground, whatever it was, 163-14. And it didn't seem to matter because they did enough. And not to mention the final tackle, on Lamb, which ended up being a fumble, the final play of the game right there on the 2-yard line. But it was drama filled. It was tough to watch. And if a lot of us are being honest, it looked like an Eagles loss. It looked like it was going to be one of those heartbreaking losses, one of those painful Philadelphia heartbreaking losses, because, we've had our fair share lately. NLCS, World Series the year before, Super Bowl, Union, the whole thing. We've seen Sixers in the second round. We've seen a Game 7 against Boston. We've seen a lot of tough ones, but this Eagles team's got a special trait, man. And they figure out ways to get it done, even during some ugly times. And here we sit at 8-1. And it's impressive because it's the best record in the NFL, first and foremost. I mean, nobody else, every other team has more than one loss. What's up, Jake? Let's hit the A2D question of the day. In fact, Jake says he agrees with the poll, but I'll put the Ravens as a close second. Ralph, if we could throw up the A2D question of the day, basically it is, do you think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL? Agree or disagree? The Eagles are the best team in the NFL. Agree or disagree? I would agree with that. What I would tell you is Jake's not far off with the Ravens. The Ravens' point differential is plus 115. They have played unbelievable football so far this season. But what I need to see is Lamar Jackson prove it to me in the playoffs, in a big game. I need to see it. And what I'll also say is, until somebody knocks the Chiefs off, for me, the Chiefs are the team that you're gunning for, as well as the Ravens have played. Chiefs are interesting this year in that their defense is better, much better, I think, overall than it was last year. And their offense is not quite as great. But when you have Mahomes and you have Andy Reid, you never count those guys out. So I think it is interesting. And Jake, appreciate you jumping in there, man. But the 8-1, just to get back to this, the 8-1 is critical on a lot of levels. It's great to have the best record in football, but also what it's done is it's built up, and Chris wants a rematch of the Chiefs. I get it. Believe me, I totally get it. But what it's done here, it's really built up some equity for you. You put some deposits into the account here because we know what's coming up. We know that the Chiefs and the Niners and the Cowboys and the Seahawks and the Bills are all coming up, right? We know that. What this allows you to do, even if you go, say, 3-2 during that stretch, okay? At that point, you're only at 3 losses. Then you have 2 games against the Giants and a game against Arizona. If the Eagles are interested in winning those games, meaning if they don't have things locked up, okay? And I agree with Tampa Eagle. The Ravens are close, and I agree with Jake. Chris, yes, I got you, man. I get it. I would love to see nothing more than avenge that Super Bowl loss like they avenged the Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. Be a beautiful thing to knock the Chiefs out. But if what this allows you to do, again, just to get back to the tail end of the season, if you don't have home field locked up, the Eagles will handle their business and beat the Giants twice and certainly beat the Arizona Cardinals. That could get you at 14-3 again. Back-to-back 14-3 seasons, first of all, is unbelievable. Secondly, that would get you home field advantage. And that's the objective. You wanted to win the division, yes, but you will ultimately want to take it even a step further and get home field advantage. You could do that with 3-2. Buffalo's not a great team. Buffalo's a talented team, but Buffalo's a wildly inconsistent team. Buffalo hasn't won consecutive games since weeks 3 and 4. Okay. Buffalo's not great. That game is not what we thought it may have been going into it. I think the game at Kansas City is going to be just as tough as we thought. I think the game here against the Niners, I think the Niners will get their groove back a little bit here in the next couple of weeks before they play the Eagles. I think that game is going to be extremely tough. I really do. It's always seems to be hard to play at Seattle for the Eagles, no matter what. Martian checks in. Rob, you're part of the media. Can you explain why the national media thinks the Cowboys will beat the Eagles in Philly in the playoffs, if they play again, please make it make sense. Look, here's the first thing I'll tell you, Martian. I don't speak for everybody else in the media. I only speak for me. Whatever they think, whatever the national media thinks, whatever anybody else thinks, that's on them. I think here's the first thing I would tell you is the national media wants to play this up. So the rematch with the Eagles and the Cowboys is a monster affair, which it is going to be. It would have been anyway. It's going to be, but it serves them well. It serves the Skip Baylesses of the world and others to build this bad boy up to be this end-all be-all game. That's part of the reason. You always have to look at the dollars and the cents of it, right? So it makes a lot of sense. I think the league and Roger Goodell, it's good for them because it's good for ratings. And don't discount the fact that these teams could play for a third time in the playoffs, right? So that's equally big. And that, think about what the hype train is going to look like if that's the case. But I think the other part, Martian, in fairness, this was a really close game. This was a game that could have gone either way. And, if Dallas wins that game, they're both 2-loss teams. One's 5-2, and Dallas at that point would have been 6-2, and the Eagles would have been 7-2 because they played the extra game. But I think that's part of it. Shannon Sharp thinks the best team of the Ravens, and it's not even close. He also won a ring with the Ravens. Rex is more confident with the result. Will favor the Cowboys. Well, I would say this. Shannon, you answered your own question with Shannon. He played for the Ravens. And again, Baltimore's really good. And Rex Ryan, I don't pay a lot of mind to what Rex Ryan thinks or says. Frankly, I never have. I find it to be kind of a blowhard. But no, and in fairness, Dallas is really good. Dallas is really, really a good team. The biggest thing for me was I felt like in a big spot, and Dak played really well, but I felt like in a big spot, Dak wouldn't be able to finish, and he didn't finish on that last drive. You look at what the Cowboys had. 27 seconds left on their 6, and then they just keep moving back. There's a sack in there. There's a delay of game. There's an incompletion. There was a lot of things that happened on that very last drive, and ultimately you throw it short of the end zone, and your guy can't get in. I thought either Dak or Mike McCarthy would cost them in a big spot. The other thing that you notice in the game is the Eagles' ability to get pressure on the quarterback. They had 5 sacks in the game, but even when they don't get sacks, they get pressure. The pressure rates in that game were absolutely unbelievable by the Eagles, and the numbers are just stunning. I saw this earlier. I believe it was from John Clark, and what the Eagles' pressure numbers were against the Cowboys. So the Eagles' pressures in that game, they had 25 pass rush wins, okay, against the Cowboys, which is a number that's through the roof big. They had 13 in the fourth quarter. 13 pass rush wins in the fourth quarter is putting a lot of heat on the opposing quarterback. And ultimately, that's what the Eagles' calling card is. Their defensive secondary is scary. Look, we're all big boys and girls here. We can talk about it. They're going to have to overcome that. They're going to have to hope that their defensive backfield improves. I don't know that it's going to be a leap, but you got to hope it improves somewhat. That's the biggest thing for me. The way I see it is the Cowboys played the best big stage game and still came up short. I don't feel optimistic about those results on the Cowboys. Yeah, the Cowboys are doing a lot of we played well enough to win, we feel good, all that kind of stuff. I think that's what they have to tell themselves, even though they lost the game. But I think you got to hope that the secondary gets a little bit better. The pass rush continues to be there, and I think it will be. When you have Sweat and you have Reddick and you have Brandon Graham, who's been on kind of a pitch count, who may get a few more reps now as the season goes, and you have the guys inside with Carter and Davis and Cox, you're going to be able to get to the quarterback. What you need is competent play. You need Bradbury to be way better than he's been. Way better. Okay? You need Slay to be better than he's been. You need somebody to be decent in the slot. And hopefully that's Bradley Roby, who tweeted out that he's going to be back after the bye. They're the things that you need. Linebacker play, I would like to see it be a little bit better. I don't know about Nakobe Dean's status. We'll get into that. We'll get into Dallas Goedert in a minute with that injury, because that is a big deal. But you need your secondary to be better. I think the bye couldn't have come at a better time for a couple of older players, guys in their 30s, like Slay, like Bradbury. So I think that's going to really help them in a big way. And certainly, the Jason Kelce's, the Lane Johnsons, the Fletcher Coxes, the Brandon Grahams, these guys need this. They're running on fumes at this point. And it's tough when you're the team that everybody's gunning for every single time out. So this allows you to kind of recalibrate, rest a little bit, regroup. I think it also is going to allow the coaches to figure some things out to get the Eagles running game back to where it needs to be. I think it's also a way to try to incorporate some different looks defensively to try and allow yourself to be a little bit better in the pass defense. So I think all those things are really, really big here for this team. They need it. They needed this in a big way. And I know how good Andy Reid is coming off the bye. I get it. But the Eagles are going to need their rest. And I think it's going to be a hell of a game in Kansas City. All right. So a lot of other things to dip into. We will, look at the schedule here for sure. We need to get a little bit more into the Goddard injury, the Kobe Dean injury, what they have going forward, the lead in the NFC, some things that were really good. We haven't even talked about Jalen Hurts, some things that are still concerning moving forward. So let's get a quickie in here. And when we come back, we'll dig a little bit deeper into the Eagles. Now, we will certainly address the Sixers and their 5-1 start. We will certainly address the Flyers and the Phillies with some real decisions to be made here in free agency. So we'll do all of that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. I am Rob Ellis. You are hanging with me. This is the Rob Ellis Show on A2D Radio. Right back.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My Nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
All right, welcome back in, friends. Rob Ellis Show, A2D Radio. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Smash the like button. We do appreciate that. All right, let's continue on the Eagles theme here. And again, coming off a win over the Cowboys, the biggest win of the season in my estimation, a team that the Eagles have had some struggles with, and Dak Prescott was 8-3 against the Eagles going into that game. So certainly big one. That's for sure. But let's go back to what we were talking about here. What you're seeing from Jalen Hurts is truly special right now. Not only just playing at such a high level, but doing it clearly hurt. And I think it's remarkable when you see a guy who, that play at the end of the half looked bad. Like, I'm thinking to myself, not only is he not going to finish this series, he's not going to come out for the third quarter. But he came out and, immediately hooks up with Devontae Smith on that beautiful pass and catch for the touchdown. And he is just a tough dude. I don't know how else to put it, man. He is physically tough. He is mentally tough. He is singularly focused. It's funny. I'm reminded of what went on with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was physically tough, but Carson Wentz was a guy who wasn't tough enough psyche-wise. Martian, I get it. I'm concerned about the run game too. I'm not more concerned about the run game than the secondary, however. I am more concerned with the secondary than the run game. But just to finish the thought on Hurts, and then I'll address that real quick. His passing game, despite having the bad knee, has really, really elevated. It's tough because he can't do some of the things that he's normally accustomed to. The back-breaking scrambles, the RPOs, the quarterback draws. Thankfully he's still able to do the tush push and still get out there as a quarterback. But man, when we were talking earlier about guys who needed the bye week, how about Jalen Hurts? He would never admit to it, but he needs the bye week in a big way. And he's really, really been coming on. And it's good to see he and Brian Johnson kind of figuring things out, man. Norman, I appreciate you, man, hanging out in Costa Rica and joining the show every single week. That's awesome. Mike, I will get to Aaron Nola, I promise, and I will get to the Flyers as well. Nittany Lions against the Wolverines, Mike, on Saturday. here's what I will tell you. I can't stand Michigan. I loathe Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. I hope Penn State puts it on them. But until I see James Franklin win a big game, I can't lean Penn State. I'm sorry, man. I'm just trying to be honest with you. That's just where I stand with it. But I want to go back to the question Martian asked about the run game versus the pass defense. While the run game hasn't been great, it's been mediocre to less than mediocre. A big part of that is the fact that Jalen Hurts and the RPO threat is not there. I think that's a big piece to why they haven't been able to run the ball well of late. It coincides with that knee injury getting either it happening or it getting exacerbated. Either way, I think that's a big piece that there isn't that threat. And therefore, if you see, that fake give, it's usually a handoff or Hurts is going to throw, but there isn't the threat of the run. You take away 1/3 of the threat of the RPO. I think that's a big part of it. I think Swift probably needs a little bit of rest. And I think if they're smart, they'll work Penny and Scott and Gainwell a little bit more into the equation here to keep him fresh, because he's not a guy who's used to that massive workload. So if I'm them, that's what I'm doing. That's the approach I'm taking. But I think the run game will get back a little bit. And I think they know, even though Nick Sirianni publicly hasn't really copped to the running game kind of falling off a little bit. He's been pretty stubborn with that. And that's fine. Whatever. He can say whatever he wants as far as that goes. But the pass defense, to me, it's like Slay and Bradbury look their age. They haven't been able to figure out the slot spot since Avonte Maddox went down. They're throwing kind of musical chairs in there. Sidney Brown has been thrown in there. Other guys are thrown in there. You're seeing some of the youth, with Eli Ricks. He had a real tough game against the Cowboys. You're just asking younger players who really shouldn't be there and be in those spots right now to go up against, some really good passing offenses. And Dallas with Lamb and Tolbert and Cooks, even though he didn't do a ton in the game, there's some real threats there for sure. So I think more than anything else, you got to hope that this rest does Slay and Bradbury good. You got to hope getting Roby back settles the slot down a little bit. And then, I think Blankenship has been fine. You got to find a complement with him. Somebody next to him, whether that's Byard, kind of getting his feet wet and getting acclimated to the system. I think that's going to be big for them. So I guess my point is, I think that the secondary is more of a fear right now. There's certainly a lot of veterans back there who could get their act together and change things. And that would be huge for this team. If you have that a secondary that's playing well combined with that pass rush, the defense just gets lifted that much more. Because here's the thing. They're the best run defense in the league, which makes other teams one-dimensional. Bradbury gave up 2 TDs last week, but had a key 4th down stop. He did. He gives it and takes it at an alarming rate. You're right. I thought he hurt his knee on that pass interference call too. That, man, not only on top of all the other drama in that Cowboys game, how about the injuries, man? All of the injuries. Now, the 2 most serious ones, obviously we start with Goddard. Goddard with the broken forearm. The good news is they're hoping with surgery, it's 4 to 6 weeks, which gets him back before the end of the regular season. That part's huge. Remember, he got hurt right around this time last year in the Commanders game. So if he can come back, and get a couple games under his belt before the playoffs start, I think that would be really, really huge. But they're going to miss him because there is a drop off at that backup tight end spot. Albert O hopefully can step up. He is a guy who can catch passes. He's a big target. We know Stoll is a good blocker, and he can do those kind of things. Calcaterra, if he can come back from the concussion, is a good receiver down the field for the tight end position. But yeah, you're losing Dallas Goedert. That's a loss. There's no 2 ways about it. The other injury is the Kobe Dean. We haven't seen much from Nakobe Dean this year. He played the first game of the season, got hurt, missed 4 games, came back, was inconsistent, and then he gets hurt. Another foot injury this past week. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I don't really know what the status is. We haven't heard much on Nakobe Dean. If we get anything further during the show, I'll pass that along. But I don't have really high expectations. Greg, what's up, man? Yes, it was a big win Sunday, my friend. You are correct about that. That is for sure. Big win over the Cowboys, always a big win. So the injuries, but it was not only those guys. You had like Fletcher Cox at one point, Hassan Reddick at one point, AJ Brown at one point, Devontae Smith at one point. I'm sure I'm missing guys, but people were just leaving the field. Thankfully, most of them came back. But that was an exhausting. You know what it felt? It had a feel. That Cowboys game kind of felt like some of the Phillies playoff games. I'm not talking about games at 6 and 7, which were a disaster, but some of the really stressful Braves, even Marlins to an extent, and then the D-backs series to an extent. Just stress. You felt like you played. You were exhausted afterwards. But here they are, as I mentioned, and they're 8-1 now with an upcoming schedule that's the toughest over the next 5 games by far in the NFL. And I go in optimistic, but with my eyes wide awake, wide open here. When you're taking on the Chiefs in Kansas City, it's a tough task. When you're taking on Patrick Mahomes, even though he doesn't have the great wideouts that some of the other teams have, it's still Patrick Mahomes, man. And Travis Kelce was kind of quiet in Germany. I expect him to have a big game. His knee's getting rest this week, which he needs. And Andy's good at dialing things up and taking advantage of some of the Eagles' shortcomings. We saw that. Greg agrees to the poll. Absolutely, to pull that out was huge. Yes, and our A2D 2-1 next 3. Okay, I would be okay with that. By the way, Greg, our A2D agree to disagree question. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL. Agree or disagree? I agree. I think there's a couple of really close seconds. I think the Ravens and the Chiefs in the AFC. I think in the NFC, I wouldn't write the Cowboys off, and I wouldn't write the Niners off. I know a lot of people are going to say Detroit. Detroit's having an unbelievable start. I still won't put Detroit into that category yet. I'm not there yet with Detroit. I like them a lot. I like their team. Not there yet. But I'm sorry, man. When you're 8-1, when you have the best record in football and you've beaten, the knock on the Eagles for a minute was they're not beating anybody. Well, they've beaten the Cowboys now in Miami. They beat a couple of good teams. And by the way, do we hear that same stuff about Miami? Miami's got 3 losses: Buffalo, Philadelphia, Kansas City. Who have they beaten exactly? And I know we want to anoint them, the greatest offense we've ever seen, and on this and that. They need to beat somebody too. But it seems like every week, at least so far through 9 weeks, there have been multiple slip-ups by good teams. The Chiefs, before they beat Miami last week in Germany, they lost to the Broncos and scored 9 points. Right? San Francisco lost 3 straight games, one of them to PJ Walker. So it happens to even the best teams. And the Eagles seem to have less slip-ups, seem to be the more focused team going into this week after week. And that's a real credit to the players, to the leadership that they have. I think a lot of that goes to Jalen Hurts, but a lot of it also goes to Lane Johnson and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Jason Kelce and the veterans who have been there, done that, not letting them, just kind of fall back on their laurels because they're off to a good start. But it also goes to the coaching staff, most notably Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni has his team ready every week, whether that's scheming up the other team or whether that's an emotional pitch. And a lot of sports, man, is not X's and O's. It's right here. And for this Eagles team to get up for every team that's gunning for them, man, with a bullseye on their back, says a lot about him. I really think it says a lot. I think it says a lot about the player buy-in that he gets from his players that he's had really from the jump. But it also says a lot about keeping it fresh week in and week out, knowing when to rest guys, knowing when to kind of pull back, knowing when to get on guys. And he's not afraid to do that. We don't hear any of the locker room nonsense that we hear from other teams. And I understand that you're not going to hear nearly as much when a team's winning. There's not going to be guys, ticked off when you're winning as much. Understood. But even on good teams, there's a lot of this kind of stuff that seeps out. And you don't seem to have any of that with this Eagles team. And if you don't think that's a big deal, you're not paying attention. It's a very big deal. So well-coached, talented roster, driven team, getting that close in the Super Bowl keeps these guys at a fever pitch every single week. And they know what's at stake. They have their eye on the prize. They know it's winning the Super Bowl, nothing else. There are other teams that want to get to the playoffs, like Detroit, want to win their division, like other teams that haven't done it in a while, or get to the postseason or win a playoff game. When you get to within 3 points of winning the Super Bowl, that's it. That's your benchmark. It's winning it. Nothing else is satisfactory. Phillies this past season, not winning the World Series. Nothing else is satisfactory. And that's what they need to do next year. That's what they need to do. We come back, we're going to do some Sixers. It's been a fun, pleasant, drama-free start. And that's exactly what everybody needed. So we'll do some Sixers. We'll do some Phillies decisions in free agency. We'll swing it back to the Eagles. I'll mix in some Flyers as well. Flyers are on the West Coast. They don't win tonight. There's a problem. San Jose stinks out loud. So we'll talk about that as well. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rob Ellis. You are attuned to the Rob Ellis Show, A to D Radio. We'll be back.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My Nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
All right.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
And fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
All right, we're back. Yes, Rob Ellis Show, A to D Radio. Appreciate each and every one of you guys hanging with us, streaming, listening in the chat section. You guys are great, man. You guys are absolutely awesome, and I do appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate you making this an interactive show. So you want to keep them firing. Keep firing, man. I will dial them up. That's for sure. All right. Let's talk some Sixers here. 5-1 start. They've won 5 in a row. The only loss is a 1-point loss to the Milwaukee Bucks to start the season. They were able to rid themselves last week of James Harden, and that's a beautiful thing because he is an albatross. He will be an albatross to the Clippers. They are filled with albatrosses. I am just sitting back. I know he had his debut. He played decent, but they lost the game. I am just waiting for that to implode, and I can't wait for the system because he is a system. He doesn't play in a system. He's the system. Can't wait for that to go up in flames. But that's their problem. The Sixers, to me, have been freed of that. And what that has allowed them to do is play freely. What you're seeing with this offense is the ball is moving. Guys are cutting. Shot clock isn't being eaten down to the final seconds. And the result of that has been the Sixers playing good, fun basketball, entertaining basketball, which is, part of this thing. Yeah, you want wins. Of course you do. And that's ultimately the goal. But you also, as a fan, want to be entertained. And this is entertaining. I mean, Joel Embiid, what he was able to do, I know the Wizards are perennial losers. I get it. But what he was able to do against them in really not a lot of minutes to drop a 48 spot and go crazy in the third quarter and also get, his requisite amount of rebounds and all those kind of things, get to the free throw line 14 times and hit all 14. It was awesome. Like, and it isn't something we should take for granted. This guy is an absolute monster. And yes, you want to see him do it in the biggest of spots. He's got to prove it in the playoffs. No doubt. All totally agree. Okay. But he's been playing great. The system of Nick Nurse seems to fit him. Tyrese Maxey is showing you that he can be that combo guard where he can score it, get you 25, but also get you 10, 11 assists like he had in the Wizards game. And I love the fact that Nick Nurse isn't afraid to get on him. He had a pretty good game against Phoenix and they won the game and all those kind of things. And Nick Nurse said he wasn't nearly aggressive enough. I need that guy to be more aggressive. I need him to do more. I need him to take more shots. And the beauty is Tyrese Maxey is the kind of guy and the kind of player that you can do that with. He's willing to accept coaching. He's willing to take constructive criticism and try to make it, make himself better. And that's a rare trait. It's really a rare trait in anybody these days, but it's especially a rare trait in an NBA player. So credit to him, but he is just, speed and quickness personified. He really is. It's amazing to watch him and his ability to finish and just kiss that thing off the glass and it just drops in like a feather is just absolutely unbelievable. But I think what you're seeing with Nick Nurse's system is you're getting the best out of Tobias Harris, the best he can be. You're getting it. You're getting contributions from a lot of other places now. He started to work in Batum on Monday night, and Batum gave you something off the bench. The thing is, once they get this settled, and I think it's Oubre and Batum coming off the bench, you have really legitimate firepower. Like guys who can score it and score it at a high clip, even though there may be some limitations to Oubre, the rest of Oubre's game, no doubt. But you got some dogs now. Marcus Morris is a guy who, will rip your head off. And it's not bad to have some toughness. Now, you're not really relying on him all that much. He's not nearly the same player that he was, but he is motivated. He's in the last year of his deal. He's playing in front of his hometown crowd, and he's playing well. Melton finally kind of got off the schneid. He was having a really tough start to the season, but he started getting going. He does a lot of other things for you from a defensive standpoint, from a hustle standpoint, and that's encouraging. But no, I think there's a lot of good here happening with this team. And I think credit to Daryl Morey for getting this thing done and not letting it linger. And even if Daryl Morey didn't want to get it done, credit to Josh Harris for getting it done and not letting it linger. The Harden thing, despite what Morey said, where he didn't think it would be, that big a deal and he wasn't that disruptive and, blah, blah, blah. We know that something else was coming. He wasn't just going to play nicely. That's not in his DNA. It's not in his nature. He's blown up situations before and it's gotten him out of there. And face it, ultimately he got what he wanted anyway. He ended up with the Clippers, but I think it was a good deal for the Sixers. I like the fact that you got all the guys that came here are expiring. You got a couple of first round draft picks to dangle, in front of teams if you want to make a trade. I think it all worked out for the Sixers. Now, they have a very interesting game on Wednesday against the Celtics. It's an early litmus test here for this team to kind of see where they're at, because it's all well and good to beat Washington. It's all well and good to beat Phoenix without Booker or Beal. It's all well and good to beat Toronto a couple of times, Portland. Like, hey, you can only play who's in front of you. And this team needed to get off to a good start. So I am not knocking it. Understand where I'm coming from. I have thoroughly enjoyed this team where I didn't think I was going to thoroughly enjoy this team. And I am going to smell the roses with this team and enjoy it. I know what the end game is. I know, and I don't fault the crowd that says, call me when it's the second round. I really don't. I don't fault you one bit. Okay. But I'm going to enjoy it because I enjoy the NBA and I enjoy the Sixers. So I'm going to enjoy, what's going on with them in the here and now. But the Boston game is a nice little test. Boston had ripped off 5 straight to start the season. Then they finally lost. They're a good team. They're a good defensive team. Well, I don't know that they're quite the same defensive team that they were, but adding Drew Holiday helps. They have plenty of players, man, with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday, among others. I'm not a huge Porzingis guy, but we know what he's capable of doing in terms of scoring. But I like that they're getting a little bit of an early test here. And they, the very first game of the season, and it's tough to judge that completely because it is the first game and guys are really rusty. I think, conditioning is better and you're playing, I think, more coherent basketball with your teammates. But, that Milwaukee game, they only lost by 1 to, I think, a team that we'd all agree Milwaukee and Boston are the 2 teams to beat. It's early, but I've looked at the rest of the Eastern Conference. I don't see any killers. The Knicks are okay. Cleveland's okay. Miami is okay. I would always keep my eye on Miami and never discount them, but I don't see anybody else who's any great shakes. Ultimately, does that help you? If you're a 3 seed or a 4 seed, Probably not, because you're probably going to end up playing Boston or Milwaukee in the second round. That's just usually the way it goes, barring some kind of upsets, of course. And you got to prove that you can beat them. But I like where this team's at. And I'm really impressed with what I've seen thus far from Nick Nurse. He's a guy who had a reputation coming in as someone who would coach to his players' strengths. In other words, it wasn't just, this is my system, you need to fit my system. If you don't, you're going to have a tough time. He's the kind of guy that says, all right, Tobias, what do you feel like you do best? Okay, let's have you slash. Let's have you, post guys up. I don't know that your best and your strong suit is necessarily catch and shoot. So let's kind of get away from that a little bit. I love that. He told Joel Embiid to be reckless when going for rebounds. That's awesome. I think he's also trying to drive the message home to Joel that, man, while you can knock a three down, nobody denies that. We need you on the block, man. We need you using that strength and that power. So hopefully all of these changes with the Sixers, with some personnel changes and certainly the coaching change, will bode well here, because they are very much in bleep or get off the pot mode. Let's be honest. The interesting thing is going to be to see if they move some of these parts in season, some of these guys that they acquired in season, or it's just, hey, let's play it out. Let's see what happens. And at the end of the season, we can make sweeping changes here and have tons of cap space, have draft picks to trade to bring in talented players. There's a lot that they can do now, where it looked like there wasn't a whole lot. There weren't a whole lot of options. Now you feel like there are with this team. And it's amazing how quickly things can change in that league, and it's nice. Let's face it. You're also kind of doing this thing on the fly. So it's also nice to still have a core of Embiid and Maxey and be able to, transition from whatever it was with Doc Rivers last year to what it is now with Nick Nurse. And the hope is that this team gets better. And I'll tell you, the thing that they need more than anything else, they need mental toughness more than anything else. We've seen too many fold jobs by them in the playoffs, whether it was the Hawks, whether it's the Celtics. I wouldn't put the Raptor series as a fold. They just got beat, and that happens. The guy hits a big shot, whatever. That happens. You can live with that. But the other seasons, there's no excuse for. By the way, have people been checking out what the great Ben Simmons is doing in Brooklyn? He's back. Remember we were told he was back. Everybody told us he was back, and look out, he's healthy now. All those great things. And so again, I was just looking at some of his numbers, and I looked at last night. On Monday night, they played. Okay, they played the Bucks, in fact. So Ben Simmons. Now, where I'll give him props, he did have a lot of rebounds. He had 15 rebounds. That's a lot of rebounds, but played 33 minutes, took 3 shots. Starting point guard or combo guard, whatever they're calling him at this point. I don't know what they're calling him. 1 for 3, no free throws. 4 assists. This is a joke, honestly. He's basically like a backup big. He's averaging 6.5 points per game. That's it. And he never goes to the free throw line because he's scared to death to go to the free throw line. So, that's Ben Simmons. And I'm just thrilled that they're not dealing with these kind of guys anymore. It really is. It's enjoyable that there's no Ben Simmons, that there's no James Harden. This Sixers team now is very likable. We've been very blessed with that in town. The Eagles team has a ton of likable guys. This Phillies team has a ton of likable guys. And look, that's not the end all be all. I don't need everybody to be a choir boy. I just want my team to win. But I feel good about this Sixers team. I don't think they're a hard team to root for. Whereas if James Harden was still here, they would have been a hard team to root for. He didn't care about this team, this city. He was a hired gun. He was an independent contractor who was looking to get paid and get in and out. So now he's in LA, and we will see how all of this plays out. They do, Rob Pavia. They look like a very, very balanced very balanced attack. I would agree with that. I would concur with that. They're fun to watch, like I said. And I think Nick Nurse is getting the best out of them in the early going. Yes, it's early, but that's all we have to go off is the first 6 games. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from them. That's for sure. All right, let's come back. It is the start, believe it or not, of Major League Baseball free agency. And the Phillies have two really difficult decisions with guys who are their own and have been here, came up through the system, et cetera. But they have another, I think, challenging decision to make or direction to go that I don't know that we're talking enough about, which we'll get into when we come back. So when we come back, we will talk Phillies. We'll mix in some Flyers in their start, and we'll circle it back to the Birds. So don't go anywhere. I'm Rob Ellis. You are hanging with me. This is A2D Radio, Rob Ellis Show. Be right back.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat John. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Hats.com.
All right.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
And fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for hanging out. Rob Ellis Show, A2D Radio. And all right, let's talk about some Phillies. Rhys Hoskins, Aaron Nola, both free agents. They have made a qualifying offer to Nola for about $20.35 million. He will certainly decline that. It's a one-year deal. He will decline that. They expect him to decline it. They're doing it for a couple of reasons. One, if he declines it, they will get draft compensation. It's a smart business move by the Phillies. It's also a symbolic, I think, show of, hey, we do want you back, man. We do absolutely want you back. So this is going to be a difficult one with Nola, because as much as he frustrates people, and I get it, he is an innings eater. He's won a lot of baseball games for them. He strikes out a ton of guys. He doesn't give out free passes. He is an extremely valuable starting pitcher in this day and age when nobody seems to go deep in games and guys miss a ton of time. Okay. And I know he frustrates people. I know he didn't pitch well in Game 6 of the NLCS. Understood. I would like to see them try to make a pretty good effort to bring him back, because I don't like the free agent market. I don't want any parts of Blake Snell. I don't. Blake Snell's a guy who gives you 5 innings, 6 innings, and he pitches really well when he's a free agent, and when he's not, you don't get the same level of production, in my estimation. I understand, there's a lot of people that like him, that think he's an upgrade from Aaron Nola. I am not a fan. Let me be really, really clear. I would prefer Thomas. What's up? What's up, Tommy A? My man. What's up, David? What does up mean, metal? How you guys doing? Yo, Tom. Good to be hanging with you, brother. Appreciate you. I am not, and let me just be clear again. Thank you. Yes, agreed. And the poll, let's throw it up there again, Ralph, just to remind the folks of what the poll question is today. Are the Eagles are the best team in the NFL? Agree, disagree? They are. They're 8-1. They're 8-1. And when they had to step up, beat the Cowboys, they beat the Cowboys. When they had to step up and beat the Dolphins, they beat the Dolphins. That's it. They are the team to beat right now. But back to the Phils real quick. I would rather they go a different direction than Blake Snell, who's going to cost you a ton. And I don't know that what kind of level of production you're going to get out of Blake Snell. My sense is Atlanta's going to take a run at Nola. I think St. Louis is going to take a run at Nola. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think he's going to get really heavy money elsewhere. If you're asking me right now, 60-40 he goes. 60-40 he goes. So I think he's a goner. Now, the other player that they could have given an offer to was Rhys Hoskins. They did. And that's no surprise either. Look, here's the thing about Rhys Hoskins. He's a really good guy in the community. He's a hell of a teammate, and he is a productive baseball player. 35 and 80, 85 every year. You don't just find those guys anywhere. And we all know the shortcomings defensively. We all know that he's best suited as a DH. And if that's the role he's going to play for another team, be it the AL or the NL, I think it'll suit him really, really well. And I think whatever team gets him will be really happy. I think he will be missed here, but I think he won't be back. I just don't see a road to him getting back. Can I ask what happened to Andrew Painter and what happened to Alec Boehm's mojo in the playoffs? He's got to get better at hitting in key moments. Well, all right, here's the thing. Triple M, Mean Metal Mike. Painter will not pitch this year. He's going to rehab this year. They're taking it slow with the Tommy John surgery with him, excuse me. So don't expect Painter until 2025. Dave Dombrowski said as much when he met with the media last week. As far as Boehm, the ironic thing is Boehm was clutch during the season. He was a big-time RBI man for the Phillies during the season and actually had a very good Game 7 for them. But you're right in that certainly in the NLCS, he had massive struggles at the plate. He struggled big time. Castellanos struggled big time. There were guys who just came up small, quite frankly. And Trey Turner in the last 2 games after having an unbelievable finish to the season and beginning of the playoffs, he came up small too. So I hope that answers the question for you. I'm not really worried about Boehm. I think Boehm's just going to get better and better. And like I said, he was a big RBI guy. I think he just pressed a little bit in the playoffs. I think he'll find his way again. I really do. You asked me about Rojas also getting lost at the plate. Rojas is a guy who I think what you saw was a young player overwhelmed in the moment. That's how it struck me with him. And I understand Rob Thompson wanting him in there for defensive purposes. And I've said this to you guys. I would have absolutely pinch hit for him in the 4th inning of that game. I would have treated it like it was the 9th inning. You were so desperate to get runs in a big spot that I would have pinch hit for him. I would have put Pache in center, or I would have put Marsh in center and put Pache in left, whatever. That's what I would have done. And I don't care that you would have burned Jake Cave and all the stuff that Rob Thompson was worried about. I still would have done it anyway. So I think the younger guys that you referenced will be okay. And all 3, all of those guys are younger players. I think they're all going to be okay. But back to Hoskins real quick. I think he'll be someone that will be missed around the clubhouse. And like I said, he did a lot. He and his wife did a lot for the Philadelphia community. He's one of the guys you tip your hat to. Thanks for your service, man. It's a shame he had awful timing with that injury. But I think that Bryce Harper is going to play first base. I think they like the setup with Castellanos and right, with, the Rojas, Marsh, Pache combo in center and left. And I don't think they want to put Schwarber anywhere near the field. I think they realize that that's the best shot defensively. They become a pretty good defense. Biggest rising star, 23 overall, I'd say Bryson Stott. I would agree with that. He played second base at a Gold Glove level. He hit very well. He got a little bit tired at the end of the year, I think. But I think his offseason objective is going to be just to get a little bit stronger and having, just a little bit more from a conditioning standpoint. Baseball's a grind and everybody kind of hits the wall, and you understand that it's tough. It really is tough when you play that much and that many games that are extended. It's a tough thing. But so my hope is if it's not Aaron Nola, it's somebody else other than Blake Snell. Rhys Hoskins likely gone. Real quick, let me just address the closer spot. I'm fine if they want to go Alvarado, if they want to use some form of Hoffman, Kerkering, Sir Anthony setting up, that's fine. They should absolutely not bring back Craig Kimbrell. Okay. I'm probably stating the obvious here. And I think they realized it a couple games too late, but I don't think he'll be back, but they should not bring him back. Even if you can get him back for cheap. I don't want him back. I'm ready to move on. All right. I did want to mix in some Flyers here before we get out of here. You know what? The start that we've seen from them is about what I thought it would be. They do lack talent, but they don't lack effort, and they're playing hard. And that what you're doing right now is you're finding out who your guys are, who your dogs are, so to speak, right? Who the guys are that are long-term investments and who the guys are that should be out of here. Simply put, I mean, that's what this has been so far. That's exactly what this is. It's weeding out. And to be 5-6-1, not bad considering the talent level. And they're going to win tonight. They'll beat San Jose. They'll be 6-6-1. Carter Hurt's kind of worrying me with the start, getting hurt in New York. I get it. He has been a little bit injury prone, Metal Mike. but I'm of the belief that he is one of those guys who are pieces for the future. All right. And that's what we're starting to find out here. Now, how long is Tortorella going to be on board with this? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that's going to go into this thing. And how many of these younger guys does he fry? I think Keith Jones and Danny Briere think he's the perfect guy to sort of mold, to break the horses, if you will, and get them in the right mindset, understand what it takes to be a pro. That's why you have somebody like that in there. He may be the one that kind of gets it started, and somebody else has to take you over the hump going forward. We've seen that in other instances, in other spots, and here in Philadelphia, but I think that's kind of the way this is going. I'm not disappointed what I've seen so far. I watched the Flyers with kind of a different eye than I watched the other three teams, being the Eagles and the Sixers and the Phillies. With that, with those teams, there's the expectation with winning. With the Flyers, for me, it's the expectation of finding out who can actually play. And clearly, there's not enough talent right now. I mean, I don't think anybody would deny that. And they knew it. They knew it. They told us as much. So the Flyers haven't lied to us one bit. They've kept it real with us. And I think that's the biggest thing that they're trying to do. Add pieces here and there. Not trade away good young talent. Not give up draft picks to get veterans in here who can be Band-Aids. They did that for too long. That's not what this is about now. This is about, not rushing your guys through the minors who aren't ready yet. Make sure when they get up here, they're going to stay up here, and the guys who are up here already who don't belong, either they get sent back or they get traded off. And that's fine. That is exactly what it should be at this point for them. But no, I mean, I'm feeling good about where things are for those teams. Look, it's nice. You want to have winner teams to jump off to. You just do. There's no more Phillies that are going to be carrying us with that same excitement level every night. It's actually perfect the way it's worked out with the Sixers playing well. Cutter Gauthier is one of those prospects, Boston College kid. Feel like he could change the culture. Yes. Have talked to a lot of people, including Al Morgani, about him, who really likes him. Al likes the Russian kid too, who they drafted in the first round. So he feels like the talent base is going to start to rise. These guys aren't here yet, obviously, but they will be, and they're going to continue to draft relatively high. They just are. What you hope is Keith Jones and Danny Briere and that crew know what they're looking at, in the amateur hockey ranks, and they know what they're looking at with guys in the juniors who are, we're in at the college level, who potentially are going to get here and be impactful players. They haven't had enough impactful players. Obviously, they've done a bad job drafting, and this is pre-Jonesy and Briere, but drafting in general. And too many misses on the blue line, too many misses on snipers. I mean, they need guys who are just pure scorers, guys who can score on the power play, guys who are good on the PK, two-way players, guys like Couturier. I mean, they need more of those kind of players, and they just haven't had enough over the years. So that is going to be something to keep your eye on. That's for sure. All right. So here's where we sit. Sixers big game against Boston. Mentioned with the Flyers, they have a very winnable game. The Eagles, this is a tough week for the fans. It's a good week for the team to get the bye week, to rest up, to kind of just recalibrate and get away from it a little bit. But for the fans, it's a bummer. You have an 8-1 team. You want to keep playing every single week. But just think about what the buildup is going to be, going into this next game. Well, once you get past the weekend and you start to really look ahead to Monday night's game against Kansas City, it's going to be wild. We're going to be coming off back-to-back games, mind you, a week off in between back-to-back games, with the Cowboy hype build up, and then it's the Kansas City Chief build up. And then after that, it's the 49er build up, the Bill build up, the Cowboy again build up, the Seahawk build up, et cetera, et cetera. We're in for a wild ride. It ain't going to be easy by any stretch for the Eagles, but man, if you're a fan, it's going to be a ton of fun. And again, the hope is that Jalen Hurts and that knee, he is full bore, ready to go, that it's not as bad as we thought with Goddard and some of the other guys who are kind of limping to the finish right now can get healthy and get right. But that's going to be a ton of fun with this Eagles season coming up. That's for sure. All right. A lot of folks to thank. I want to thank my man, Tom Arnone. I want to thank Ralph Dell, always doing all the hard work behind the scenes that you don't get a chance to see, and everybody at A2D Radio. A lot of fun as always. And thank you. Big thank you to all of you guys in the chat section, all you guys streaming and listening. You guys are awesome. You make it fun. And sports at the end of the day should be fun. Unfortunately, sometimes we take it a little bit too serious, but it should be fun at the end of the day. And you guys make it fun. That's for sure. There's no way I could do what I do if it wasn't for you. So thanks again for another episode of the Rob Ellis Show here on A2D Radio. You guys have a great rest of your week.